Not me coming unannounced after 1 month. This one will be a bit of a wild card because I don't have any script. I don't know if you will take it as a strength or a weakness. I am not big on introductions, so let's just start with Copenhagen, my favorite fashion week in the whole world. I haven't been to all of them. I never been to Milan and New York, but Copenhagen is very different in the sense that this year, for example, I counted because I kind of wrote for magazines on that, and this year 70% of the brands on the schedule were women-led. No other fashion week has that. I think that's very important. I don't know if we need to talk about why it is important in this male-dominated fashion world, which is very outdated. Well, actually, historically, it was always women's field because as a man, working so close with women bodies were very inappropriate. But after World War II, the situation, is this lamp playing on me? The situation changed and now we have what we have. Also, Copenhagen, they are very big on sustainability. All the brands have to comply to some guidelines and regulations. Don't quote me on that, but because I looked into that a few days ago, and 60%, 50 or 60, it's one of these, I swear, 50 or 60% of the whole production of the brand has to be sustainable in the sense that it has to be recycled, upcycled, dead stock. You might think 50%, it's not a lot, but then think about that zippers, buttons, you can upcycle buttons, you can recycle buttons, but it's not as common and it's hard to source. Oh my god, it drives me crazy. There are parts that it's hard to recycle and upcycle. So 50% being of it sustainable in that sense is a lot. Now, this year's Copenhagen was second time for me. I was there 3 years ago. The situation for me was a bit different because at that time I was attending as a small creator. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you might not know, I am not an internet celebrity, but I am very, very grateful for my 15,000. And it was harder to get in, whereas now I am writing for magazines. So usually I am attending as a media, as press. You know, I think what is also very different about Copenhagen, that it offers you this very, very different perspective on fashion, that fashion not necessarily has to be, I don't even know how to frame it, focused on design. I see a lot of textile innovation here. For example, there is this brand called STEM. They have complete zero waste policy because the patterns, what they're doing, it's woven in the textile itself, and the spare ends, the hanging ends, they are just being cut and they are used as a part of design. And the designer now developing a STEM mill, they working on producing everything locally, and you see a lot of brands, they don't want to scale to big productions and to sell. Maybe it's also a cultural thing, because I think Copenhagen, I cannot talk for sure because I never lived there, is not so much about huge business achievements. Of course, the brands naturally want to have presence and international presence, but you can still get the traction while keeping your production format very low key. And I think this is real exclusivity, because these brands, they will never strive to, I said exclusivity and I hated the word immediately. These brands don't strive to produce tens, hundreds of thousands of pieces because it's not realistic for them. It's scaling on the sense that they want to have full control on what they are producing. I can say the same about Son, or I called it the whole time Saison, and I am so sorry, I should know this. I didn't clarify how to actually pronounce this, but this is the brand that produces only remaking from the existing secondhand items, and I think that they do it in a very contemporary way. And this is also very clear that it's not possible to scale this production, because probably you can only make one piece of the item. Also, you have this range, I would say, of very, very infamous, very rooted into Copenhagen and internationally recognized brands like Baum and Pferdgarten. I was very blessed to be in the show. Also, I had the honor to sit to the head of sales, and we had very, very nice discussions. And this is, well, not discussions, conversations, or she shared some insider insights. That's a good wording. She also said, well, this brand is not actually women owned, but everyone in a design team, everyone is women. She also had a lot of very warming things to say about working with the brand and feeling like a community. And I think that's also thing that is very ingrained into Copenhagen fashion. Lamp is going on and off in the camera. You see, when I talk about myself and technology, I mean it. Community. I was also talking with Fine Chaos. It's pretty new brand. Tonalisa, the head of design, she really emphasized that the community is very integral to their whole philosophy and the values. Well, and even as a guest, as a visitor, I feel in Copenhagen so welcome, even though I think they are pretty proud of what they have in this very, very young fashion system. Copenhagen Fashion Week just celebrated 20 years. It's not a lot. And they are, I would very confidently say, they are 5th major fashion capital. Can we agree on that? Can we all agree on that? That's true, like objectively. And I think if you are thinking to go to your first fashion week, depending on what do you do, Copenhagen is maybe not as intimidating as Paris. And if you are going to a fashion week for right reasons, Copenhagen is one of the most interesting ones. I think they really have good talent roster. Berlin, whereas I lived in Berlin for 8 years. I don't want to offend anyone, but I hate that city with all my heart, and I quite liked it when I lived there because I was living in the west part of Berlin, which is Charlottenburg, and it still reminds me a bit of Vienna, where I live now. Everything else, it's a pain. Don't come for me. Or come for me, I will fight you. I moved to Berlin in 2016, and I think my first fashion week there was 2017 or 18? 17 probably. At that time, it was great. I had no idea who I am, what I'm doing, where I'm going, and it was very, very easy. There was a time when you would get an invitation and you could bring +1 to the show. It was very also influencer oriented. So for me, as just starting internet personality, I think it was great. I am not going to influencer events now, at least in Berlin, so I'm not sure how it is. Also, this time I was working with a job because I had an interview, so I didn't really do a proper research. What events are there happening besides the main runway spectacle? And you know, but I think, okay, if you just starting, I think Berlin is the one that would demotivate you the least, because it's relatively very easy to get invitations to the shows, whereas in Copenhagen, not that much. Berlin, even if you don't have strong online presence, if you are a student, if you are just figuring things out, I think you still can reach out and you would get some sort of luck. Okay, this is gonna be very personal, you will love it. The hostility in Berlin. People are sometimes assholes. It's not that somebody did something wrong to me directly, but I saw some weird stuff. For me, it's also very weird. It's like when you're going to runway shows, there is some etiquette. It's not runway etiquette, it's just a part of being a human being. You sit, you have a neighbor to your right and a neighbor to your left, you say hi. I don't know, that's basic politeness to me. In Berlin, it just, everybody seems to be so uninterested, because also I'm reading the social cues. If somebody to my right is not even looking at me and they're in their phones, of course I will not be like, hi, how are you? No, that's not how it works. One more thing, it's shows being extremely late. Like it's hysterical how late they are. Some shows are being late half an hour, even 1 hour. I didn't attend a lot of shows this year because I was going to Berlin initially for different reasons. So I had like 5 shows on my schedule, and to one of them I didn't even make it. I don't want to say what sort of show it was, because the being late might be not the fault of the brand, so I don't want to drag them into all this. But at the end of the day, I was sitting still in the show when another one was about to start. And even though you have these shuttles for press, I wasn't worrying about this, because I was like, okay, this is how Berlin is. Everything is late. I will hop to the shuttle. They will take me there, because of course there's communication between shows, right? And they know when the shuttle is on its way and so on. And I go to the door to the next show. It's locked. They wouldn't open it for us. Well, they get out for a second, and they were as confused as we are, I guess, as if they had no idea that more people are coming. Like us, 20 different representatives of press would stand outside, which is absolutely fine if it's fault from our side, but there was so much actually time between the shows. One was at 1 and the next one was at 2. Throughout my stay, all the shows were significantly late. I had only one show that started like almost on time, because when it starts like 10 minutes after, for me it's still on time. It's still in respectful range. And I have some questions from you from Instagram. It's not a lot of them, so I think I will answer all of them. The first one is how to find contacts. Very easy for Copenhagen and Berlin. So Copenhagen has exquisite website. You go on the schedule, you will click on the brand, and on the brand sub page you will get all the information about the brand. Also, they are compliant to sustainability standards, and at the sidebar you have all the contacts. Whether you are a sales associate, whether you press PR, you have all the contacts listed there for every single brand. For Berlin, it works the same, I think, maybe a bit more steps because German efficiency, but it's something similar, and I think they also have them posted on their website. If you are going to a bigger fashion week, let's say you are going to the pinnacle of them all, to Paris, that might be tricky, because they also, and they also, in Copenhagen Fashion Week, they even post the address of the venue. So, pro tip, if you are not getting invitation, I would still maybe risk and go there, because sometimes they would let you in. So for Paris, it's a bit more difficult. There is a website I really like to use. All these tips and steps, I actually wrote an article on Substack, so I would definitely suggest you to go there, because I also link the website I'm talking about there. They have all the fashion weeks there, by the way. I think it's not great for Copenhagen and Berlin, because I don't know why they don't have these contacts listed there as much, but it's great for big fashion weeks. So there you can go brand to brand. You can also look into press agencies, PR agencies. Some brands have listed PR contacts on their websites. The thing is that a lot of brands, they are not being represented by the internal press contact during the fashion week, because usually they are collaborating, they're hiring some sort of external agency that helps to organize all the load. How do you plan a trip if you don't know if you will get invited to the show? Sounds like a risk. It is a risk a lot. I think the best mindset is to just go to the city. If you're going to Paris Fashion Week, don't just go to Paris Fashion Week. Look into exhibitions that are going on right now. Go to the Dior Museum, go to Dar Street Market. There is a lot to do. The thing is, probably you will have to start organizing your trip way before you will get invitations to the shows. You only start sending invitations not earlier than 2 weeks before. I think if you are a very important person, maybe you will know earlier on if you're going or not. I would say 1 week in advance you would start getting the invitations. If you are going to Fashion Week specifically and then at the end of the day you will not get invitations or you will get one, I think if you don't have any plan B, you will be disappointed. The other thing, what I recommend you to do in Berlin and Copenhagen, it doesn't work in Paris unfortunately. You just go to the location and sometimes they will let you in if they will have capacity at the show. Sometimes you just wait in line because believe me, you are not the only one. In Paris, well, depends, I guess, but in a lot of shows they have very strict security systems, so like don't even think about Louis Vuitton or Dior or these sort of brands. Next one, biggest differences between Copenhagen and Berlin Fashion Weeks. I think I already talked about that in all my essay. On top of that, no, it's not on top of that. Just summarize, Copenhagen is way more organized in that sense. It's much more internationally accepted, internationally represented. We are thinking about, you know, Paris and London and Milan. All of them have very distinctive face. And Copenhagen, I think, one of them too, whereas Berlin, I don't know, sometimes I'm confused, sometimes I don't know what are they about. As I told you before, there are a lot of very good brands in Berlin, of course, but the magnitude, the range is just different. The media attention one or the other attracts, it just reflects in everything. Just look at the amount of photographers in Copenhagen Fashion Week or in Berlin Fashion Week. Look into magazines covering street styles. Do you see more of Copenhagen or Berlin? Like, I don't see Berlin a lot at all. How do you start a conversation with someone at Fashion Week? That's a very good one, especially for people like me who are introverted. I am definitely an introvert. My comfort space is my home. I don't need to go anywhere. I'm so happy just being alone. But I love also meeting new people. And I think it took for me a while to learn how to communicate to people and not to get myself into awkward situations, let's say. To be realistic, go with a mindset that nobody's judging you. I think that's the thing that a lot of people have, that they are dealing with huge imposter syndrome, and a lot of people feeling like, I don't know, this is how I felt in the beginning, and a lot of people are feeling like frauds, like they don't belong there, which is not true. Probably if you are there, there is a reason why you're there, right? The same as the people to your right or to your left. So I would say, I always say hi to the people I'm sitting close to. And actually, I came to my first Copenhagen Fashion Week and I saw this very beautiful, very extravagant girl, and I sat next to her and we started talking. We were talking and then we went to the next event. Camera died, but at least the lamp is functioning perfectly. So we bonded so well that we spent all the days together, which I'm very grateful for, first of all, because I gained an amazing person in my life. And second of all, because it gives you a lot of comfort, especially when you're going alone. And I'm always alone in Fashion Weeks. Also a good mindset to have, you should always be more interested in other people than you are interested in yourself. Ask people questions. People like talking about themselves. I don't want this to have this negative emotion linked to the word. It's very normal. We are all coming there, probably connected by fashion already, and I think it's great to network with people. If you are just talking about the start of conversation, I am always trying to find what is actually interesting in the person. Sometimes it's something they are wearing, sometimes it's something they just did, sometimes you know the person from social media, sometimes you are just finding yourself the one counter where you get a coffee from. There are a lot of opportunities. nobody is judging you for that. And if they do, I mean, they're lost. And don't linger on these thoughts. It's not as a big deal as you think it is. I also don't go to parties, so a lot of opportunities already not for me, but I don't feel like I am missing on something because, at the end of the day, I think any encounter with the fellow fashion person could be an opportunity for you to meet. Okay, I was yapping for probably 1 hour. I don't know, maybe I will just cut it a bit because it feels outrageous. I'm not a vlogging person, so for me it's very hard to talk about it when I'm on the way, but next week I am going to London Fashion Week with my best friend. Wow. And I don't know, we will see. Maybe we'll do something together. If you made it to the end, bless you. Thank you so much, and see you next time.